Okay, so if I wear this, I'll be able to eat things without eating them?
Correct.
So how does that work exactly?
Well, you know those helmets with beer cans and tubes attached to them?
Yeah?
It's sort of like that.
But that makes no sense. If I have to drink the potion for the potion to take effect, but then also it doesn't consume the potion, then that means that...
You're not imagining the tube in the right place.
Oh.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, we have new monsters undeniably on the horizon of our beautiful series. Between the return of the Arch-Tempered, the arrival of new variants, and even the fan-favorite returning monster in the distance, we have new opponents, and with new opponents come new gear. But wait, all the gear we are currently using, every last piece of equipment from Safi'jiiva, is stupid powerful and nearly irreplaceable, right? Wrong. There is an answer, and quite an interesting one too, at that. Set bonuses. That's right, I think the power of the new armor, at least for most of the monsters, will be decided by new set bonuses. But how crazy could new set bonuses get? Well, to understand that, we have to talk about the ones we already have in the game. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my list of the top 5 set bonuses in Iceborne. As usual, of course, being the list of the ones that I consider the most cool and interesting, rather than necessarily just the 5 most purely effective ones. So without further ado, let's begin with
Number 5.
お前はもう死んでいる。何？もうは匠でギゼブ。
Punishing Draw.
Now, this is the only one of these set bonuses on this list that was also in base world, and that should honestly say quite a bit, both about the set bonuses in the base game, and about the jump in quality and set bonuses for Iceborne itself. In Iceborne, Punishing Draw is attached to wearing 2 pieces of Barioth armor, and this bonus is all about your draw attacks. It gives you a very minimal attack bonus to these, which is nice, but the main component is that it adds KO damage to your draw attacks, and this can create some super interesting builds in my opinion. Sure, by itself, the KO is sort of negligible, and unless you are literally only doing draw attacks, the stun ability is slightly limited, but that is where Iceborne comes in, because even pre-Safi'jiiva's expansion of all these set bonus matching capabilities, we had a beautiful little combo in Punishing Draw and Slugger's Secret, which raises your KO damage by 60% total.
Categorically stunning.
And using this combination, you can have a build with extreme stun capability, especially when mixed with Longsword's EI Slash and Counter, or just general crit draw greatsword. And while it isn't the be-all end-all of set bonuses in terms of increasing your damage or anything like this, I consider it to be one of the most interesting, as giving stun attacks to weapons without stun attacks really messes with the entire flow of said weapons. And then on top of that, post-Safi'jiiva update, this set bonus has even more room to work around with, as you can mix and match it with various 4 set bonuses to really shake the whole thing up. One of those combinations making for one of my favorite builds, and the other set bonus involved in that combination is
Number 4.
The one man who made a difference 5 times before is about to make a difference again. Who left the fridge open?
FROSTCRAFT.
And this set bonus from wearing 4 pieces of Velkhana armor was one of the most intricate things in the beginning of the expansion. When Iceborne first released, no one really knew the numbers. All we understood was that having the set bonus put a bar on your screen that filled while your weapon was sheathed, then depleted when you attacked the monster. And while you had something in that bar, you definitely did a good chunk more damage than when you didn't have anything in the bar. In the end, it appears there are 3 tiers of FROSTCRAFT charge, with the bar being full being the strongest output of the set bonus itself. So essentially this boils down to, if you can hunt efficiently while only doing a handful of attacks in between sheathing, FROSTCRAFT is a massive damage and elemental bonus, with the full bar equating to a 30% buff to both, which is insane. And now that I've explained that, I feel like it might make sense that the second Safi'jiiva was released and offered us new potential set bonuses, the first words that I said were,
Where's my super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
And the combination of this with Punishing Draw made one of my favorite sets this year. The ultimate knockout longsword build that does ridiculous damage as well, and that thing is just fantastic. But back to the set bonus as a whole, it's super interesting. It doesn't quite only affect draw attacks, which makes it usable for a surprising number of weapons, but because the weapon attacks also drain the bar at a different rate depending on the weapon being used, it really balances the whole thing out itself. There is use for this bonus for a ton of weapons if you're willing to adjust your playstyle, and honestly, honestly, this set bonus results in the most viable alternate playstyles there are in Iceborne in my opinion, at least the largest number of alternate viable playstyles. So if you're all about the idea of having a different fight experience and using different attacks with the weapon you already use, while still doing effective damage, you should really spend some time messing around with FROSTCRAFT.
Number 3.
I'm gonna be doing this. If you get hit, it's your own fault.
Element Acceleration.
Now this one is a little odd for me because this is a set bonus I haven't personally used in a whole lot of builds simply because it's quite niche, but the niche that it fills is super cool and interesting. With the full set bonus from wearing 4 pieces of Namiel armor, continually attacking a monster activates free element / ammo up level 3 and increases your elemental damage by a large amount. And the main interesting thing here to me is the free element, because essentially what that means is you could walk into a hunt with a raw damage weapon, hidden element, even using non-elemental boost in your set, it would affect it. And then after hitting the monster a few times in a row, suddenly you are elemental. And of course, this makes the non-elemental boost not work anymore, but you see what I'm saying, right? How interesting is it that because of this theoretical set, you could walk into a hunt, genuinely get a bonus from using only raw damage for a bit, and then full-on swap to being an elemental build mid-combat. And the idea that it is unlocked by continually attacking a monster is interesting too in the context of different weapons. In fact, the first set that I tried to make in the entirety of Iceborne after finishing the story was an element acceleration hammer set, because I severely wanted to believe that just doing the spin move with the skill would be amazing elemental damage. Unsurprisingly, I was saddened by the end result, but the end result is just numbers, and numbers can be changed. The set bonus itself as an idea, as a concept, is brilliant, and if brought back in the future with some numbers adjusted here and there, it could easily be the coolest combat affecting singular skill there is. However, in its current state, it is mostly just good for things like Savage Axe Mode Charge Blade.
Savage things.
Which is a style of gameplay that is already super elementally focused and attacks quite frequently, so this skill complements this gameplay super well. I just wish that it mixed with other weapons better too. And so a set bonus that honestly could have been number 1 for me will end up down here at number 3.
Number 2.
Wake up!
What?
Dragonvein Awakening.
Now, this is the big one, the big kahuna in terms of balancing newer skills, as the most recent set bonus added to the game, and of course the set bonus of an extremely powerful monster, as the full version of this requires you to wear 4 pieces of Savvy Jiva armor, the development team clearly took some liberties with the power creep here. Sure, the weapons are the main source of this, but there are actually a ton of weapons that now use Sappy armor as part of their meta sets too, and the reason for this is super solid. When your weapon is unsheathed, you gain a good chunk of attack and element and status up, as well as 40% affinity, which is just a massive amount of affinity, and every time you swing your weapon you lose a little bit of health, but after hitting a monster enough times in a row, you gain health back, and this is reset if you sheath. For example, swinging your insect glaive takes 4 health from you, and hitting a monster 10 times triggers a 65 health heal, which means that all in all, if you don't get hit, don't miss an attack, and don't sheath, after every 10 hits, you will have lost 40 health and gained 65, for a 25 health net gain.
That's a spicy meatball!
And what is so interesting about this set is how well it works with other skills and mechanics. It's how intricately laid out and considered each of these interactions are. For example, the fact that the set bonus takes the health from you upon swinging the weapon rather than on hit. That just changes everything. It allows you to have permanent resentment uptime, as you will always have red health before the weapon hits the monster. And with a sizable weapon and health augment, you can actually outdo the self-damage of the set with healing, so you don't actually really lose health per hit in that world either, while still activating resentment. And we still haven't quite covered the fact that using this set gives you 40% affinity, which, if you choose to, completely negates the need for weakness exploit, which in my opinion is a dying skill in Iceborne, as with the tenderizing monster parts being a regular activity now, the second you are using a more mobile weapon that has to move parts around a lot, or playing solo instead of multiplayer where there's less people to tenderize, it can become sort of a chore to tenderize the right part parts and only attack them. So avoiding weakness exploit is great, and I'm just sort of rambling at this point. The intricacies of this set bonus allow you to use both the 2 set and 4 set separately in interesting ways and in interesting builds, either for builds that do crazy regen or builds that take advantage of missing health. And almost all of these builds are super effective offensive creations too. And if it wasn't for me being absolutely in love with a specific gimmick, this skill would undeniably be in the top spot, but that's not the case. So moving on.
Number 1.
He kinda looks like a baby.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! I'm bigger than you, I'm higher in the food chain! Get in my belly! Come on!
Free meal secret.
And this one is the unsung hero of Iceborne to me. Sure, it's just a secret skill, just something that lets you extend the level of a certain skill, but it's such an interesting base skill change in such an interesting way. Free meal as a base is a 1-level skill that gives you a 25% chance to not consume a consumable upon consumption.
Charlotte hated the C word.
Which was, well, interesting by itself. Nothing really mind-blowing. However, if you wear 3 pieces of Tigrex armor, you activate Free Meal Secret, which allows you to have up to 3 ranks of this skill for a final result of a 75% chance to not use a consumable. That is insane. This literally makes you 3 times as likely not to use an item as you are to use said item. And what this did is 2 things. First, it made my first time through the game an absolute cakewalk, like no word of lie. I went for this set because it just sounded sort of interesting, and I think I actually used only a couple of handfuls of potions the entire rest of the time through the story between Tigrex and the end boss, and that is ridiculous from a solo farming perspective. But the main thing this really changes is support builds. And I know, sometimes support can be a bit of a dirty word in Monster Hunter, but it is a viable way to play the game, and there are a number of people who enjoy it. So let's leave the judgment at the door here for the sake of evaluating this skill fairly. As an example, on screen is my Pills Here build, and to explain what's happening, this is a hunting horn build focused around support. Yes, but less so the healing side, and more so the buffing side due to might pills and adamant pills. That's right, the massive attack and defense buff items that only last 20 seconds and can only be carried in stacks of 5. Well, with this skill, that stack of 5 on average has the effect of a stack of 20, as you only actually consume it 1 in 4 times on average. And then of course you can carry the materials to craft 10 more. So let's say that you used 5 of that on might pills and 5 on adamant pills, and assuming average RNG, you can literally carry on you the equivalent of 40 might pills and 40 adamant pills, which if used back to back for a consistent 20-second active time, lasts for a little bit over 13 minutes of hunting, with both of those active. And this is pills, the least efficient method of support, supposedly at least, yet this build, combined with Hunting Horn's attack buff and actually good damage itself, makes for one of the most interesting and complete monster hunting experiences that I've had in Iceborne. This set and the builds that come from it are just so incredibly, totally different from the normal style of playing the game, and even from the old way of doing support builds. It's just incredibly interesting, incredibly unique, and incredibly effective. And what more could you possibly ask for from a set bonus? If you ask me, nothing. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been my list of the top 5 set bonuses in Iceborne. Do you agree with my choices? Which set bonuses could you see attributed to new monsters in the future? Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love, so let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes. When they're watching us play video games, when we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters or important news about the kingdom and Amelia. Rage, Cotton, and Hollow are all here, talking about the things you want to hear. So if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe, and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons, even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros. There's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.